Morning all. Make a start with this confirmation hearing this morning. So we have apologies for non-attendance from Ken Pritchard, who's been substituted by Councillor Clark.
Through you, Chair, also apologies for non-attendance from Mr Frost, Independent Panel Member, and from Sarah Hall, Director of Governance and Monitoring Officer at West Northamptonshire Council, and we have Nikki Agalamanyi, the Head of Legal, Corporate and Deputy Monitoring Officer, who is substituting for Sarah.
Thank you. So agenda item 2, so any declarations of interest? Okay, well, if it should dawn on you at any point that there is, please just raise your hand. Thank you. So Chair's announcements. So I have no Chair's announcements, well, other than actually just one. There's proposed a meeting to have a discussion around the forthcoming police, fire and crime plan. And maybe we can talk about that after this meeting, because it's down potentially as an online, but I think it would benefit everybody if we could all be in the same room to discuss that. But we'll discuss that after this meeting if you're happy with that. Okay, so moving on to item 5. So I'd like to welcome Vaughan. Welcome. It's not the first time we've seen you, of course.
Thank you.
We're going to basically ask a number of questions, and there may be some supplementary questions. So moving on, so to those questions.
Would you like me to make a statement first, Chair?
Yeah, go on. Yep. Sorry.
You don't have to, but
No, why not? We'd like to hear from you.
thank you very much. I am really pleased that we have gone through a really robust process. I'm sure you'll be glad to hear that, where we took an advert out as far and wide as we can on the advice of the Home Office. We advertised in the financial arenas as well, and we had a really good slate of candidates. And we wanted to be in a position to test what we were doing through that process, so that we knew that we were getting absolutely the right candidate for the job. So I'm really pleased to tell you we had a good slate of people, really well qualified, really well experienced, but Vaughan was the outstanding ahead candidate, about which I'm really pleased, because obviously we already know Vaughan very well. So what was important for me wasn't just all the technical ability and the fact that he could do his job really well and proved to be excellent during the interview process, but it's obviously also inside of the change culture that we are trying to implement through my office, through the police and through the fire service. So for me that is a really strong, important point as well. And having somebody who understands all those sets of relationships and the relationship with members, I think was really crucial for me. So I'm really pleased to tell you that we've been through that really robust process. We had great candidates coming forward. The team that did the interviewing reported back to me at every stage, and I read all the documentation. So I'm really pleased to present Vaughan to you for your confirmation. Thank you.
Can I ask a question, please? How many candidates were there?
Can you put your mic?
Sorry. How many candidates were there?
Pauline. Bring the mic towards you. Just.
It was me, sorry, I had mine.
Could you let us know how many candidates applied for the post?
There were 7 that were credible. There were 7 credible candidates that came forward, and they were shortlisted down to 3.
Perfect, thank you.
Any other questions for the Commissioner? No? Okay. So we'll move on to some questions for you then, Vaughan. You've seen this many times before. So,
Sorry, it may go without saying, but just in case it doesn't, are members all comfortable, clear about the process to be followed at this meeting? I think virtually, everybody present has done this before. It's set out in the covering report, but if there are any questions on that, then now is the opportunity.
Silence, that's what we like. So on to the first question from Andre.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Vaughan, and very warm welcome to have you here today with us. First question is, what have you learned from carrying out the role of interim Chief Finance Officer on interim basis, and was it different to what you expected, and why?
Having done the job on the Chief Constable's side, I know what it's like to be a Chief Finance Officer, but the difference between being within an operational force context and the Commissioner's Office context is that there is quite a big difference, and I expected there to be some kind of difference, but I didn't know what that would be, which is part of the reason why I accepted the secondment into the post in the first place, because I didn't know what I'd be kind of signing up for. But I've really enjoyed the change. There's the opportunity to influence the overall strategy of all of the organisations, to feed into the police fire and crime plan, and all of the underlying accountability is really interesting. And what I've recognised is that there's lots of areas that I can really help to develop. I can really make changes if they're needed. There's lots of influence that I can have to help to make all of the organisations work better and more smoothly, and to really reinforce the robustness of how things are done. So I have recognised it is very different to the role I was doing before, and I've enjoyed it, and I think there's lots I can do in it.
And a supplementary, Chair, if I can, in that case. Vaughan obviously tells us about the influence opportunity and enabling change, and hopefully certainly integrating elements such as the plan, the police fire and crime plan. Have you been able to do that, do you feel? Has there been that attitude?
Yeah, and that's obviously that's written into the statute and into the regulations that my Section 151 role should have an opportunity to influence those strategic decision making, and I've been fully involved. I think Johnny and Danielle and myself have built a relationship where we can challenge each other, and we can all kind of play a part in making that happen. So I felt very welcomed by the office.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Vaughan. Good to see you.
Hello.
I've got a question. How would you summarise the main financial challenges for policing and fire and rescue at the current time? And as Chief Finance Officer, how will you aim to work with the Commissioner to address these? I know you've talked about how you've developed the job through partnership working, but I'd be interested for you to take that a little bit further.
So in terms
with
of
the new Commissioner, of course.
So in terms of financial challenges, and it's looking at the national issues regarding the economy, the rates of inflation, supply and demand, all of the cost elements that need to be taken into account, as well as legislative changes, making sure that I play a part in the challenges that come with a new police fire and crime plan, because it may be that things take a slightly different direction, and I need to make sure that the finances underpin what we decide to do. But so the main challenge is to deliver all of that is financial uncertainty, and we still have lots of financial uncertainty, not within the office, but from a national point of view, about funding, how we estimate costs into the future, making sure that these plans are built into the medium-term strategy and that they are affordable and sustainable. So it's those kind of challenges that I need to help Danielle and Johnny navigate through, to make sure that we've got a set of financial plans that can be tested against various different scenarios, so we know that we can afford to do what we want to do at various different levels, and we have a prioritisation kind of process around that. So for me, the biggest challenge is overcoming that financial uncertainty that's coming from the national piece.
If I may. Yes, that financial uncertainty obviously means that you have to cut your cloth according to that. Are there any big issues at the moment that I don't want to go into the detail, but are there any big issues at the moment that are posing that sort of pressure in the organisation?
So,
Yet to come.
and that's part of the uncertainty. So what we do is develop strategies that have a number of different kind of like tested against various different scenarios. At the moment, I'm relatively comfortable with the budgetary position, and that we are comfortable going forward to be able to fund what we need to fund. But there are savings to be made, and where I can come in with Danielle is holding the force and the fire service to account to deliver the savings they need to make in order to prioritise the most important things, and that's where it's difficult, and also to make sure that any change or investment is fully appraised and tested to make sure that it both fits into the plan, that it is the right thing to do for the people of the county, and that it is affordable and sustainable going forward. So we'll know better at the end of the month when we have more information from government on what future funding and preset referendum limits will be. But at the moment, we're refining our current financial modelling, making sure that it's still fit for purpose, because we like to look at things regularly throughout the year. It's not a once a year thing. And we've reached a point now where we know as much as we're going to know until the end of the month when we get some direction from the government.
Thank you, Vaughan. That was very good.
Thank you. And next question from Ms Woodhouse.
Thank you, Chair. Morning, Vaughan.
Morning.
As Chief Finance Officer, how will you seek to ensure that the Office of Police, Fire and Crime Commissioner and the Commissioner Fire and Rescue Authority operate consistently in accordance with the requirements of financial administration and governance?
So we have in place the corporate governance framework, and that's something that I played a part in putting into place originally in my old role, and it's still current today. That's a framework that lays out all of the legislation, all of the regulations, all of the responsibilities of the different parties, both in police, fire and the Commissioner's office, and what everybody is responsible for doing and how they should be doing it. That includes an awful lot of information about what needs to be done, and the challenge for me is to make sure that people understand what that is, that what they should be doing is the right thing to do, and to support people to understand what the corporate governance framework looks like. I'm very keen to make sure that it's a document that's regularly reviewed. It needs to be kept up to speed with legislative changes, with the new structures, the new plan. All of that needs to be fed into the framework. And once we've got that underpins how we do our business. Then what we have are processes to enforce that, to make sure that people go through due and proper process when they do their business. One of the things we're looking at the moment is the new procurement regulations that has been delayed but will come in very soon, and that's going to be built into the framework, and we're going to make sure the processes wrap around that, and so that key individuals in all of the organisations adhere to those consistently, robustly. We've got a really robust signing process that makes sure that myself and Danielle and Johnny, depending on what the kind of thing it is, that we're all informed as to what big projects are ongoing, and that we can test them, we can challenge them if necessary. And alongside that, to test those controls, we have an internal audit regime that rolls every year. We make sure that tests various different parts of the business in terms of internal controls, that focuses on national issues, on areas where we know that there may be problems, so we get those out into the open and nothing's swept under the carpet. I often say that when we review the results of the internal audit reports at the end of the year, if they were all green, we'd be doing something wrong because we've not pointed them in the right place. So what we do is we look for where we think there may be gaps in the governance and point internal audit to them so we can understand exactly what needs to be improved.
Thank you.
Thank you. So it's connected to that one. Yeah, please do. Yeah.
Thank you. This is a follow-up from that. So I understand in terms of your governance and robustness. So as a 151 officer, you've got a statutory responsibility. Do you feel confident on being able to sort of challenge your people? Because often we've seen where things are going off the boil and 151 officers said, oh, it's be okay, we'll find something. Do you feel confident to do that challenge if you felt that things weren't going the right way in terms of the plan and saying, well, actually, no, we've got to stop? Would you feel confident to do that?
Yeah, absolutely, and I've been in conversations like that, you know, in various points in the past. What I think is important that I'm given the voice to do that in that statutory role, and as such, that's why I'm fully invited to all of the most important meetings. That I've got oversight of stuff, and I can see when things are happening. Even some of the low level stuff, I have the ability to dig into that, and through this role and my previous role, what I've helped to do along with colleagues is to make sure we've got working relationships that are really effective, that there's a really good, open, honest, transparent line between the Commissioner's Office, my 151 colleague on the force side, and fire service colleagues. And I'm involved in for instance, I'm involved in the fire SLT meeting, which I'm missing today to be here. But normally I'd be invited to that, so I can see what's kind of coming through, and so I can see, and I can challenge if I need to, if things aren't quite going in the right direction.
Thank you. That's good to hear.
Thank you. Good question. Councillor Baker.
Thank you. Good morning. We're all aware as senior organisations that the way forward for us all is to work together in order to get the best results for our residents. So please could you give me an example of when you have led action to deliver a strategic priority set by a public authority, and how did you go about doing this effectively? Thank you.
So in my previous role, we needed to make efficiencies in order to deliver against the financial envelope, and part of that was to deliver a whole restructure of the finance function to make sure that it was fit for purpose and could service the organisation and help the organisation deliver the priorities that were set. And so my role was to manage that restructure, to make sure that the financial systems and governance underpinned all of that, and kind of to take what was given in terms of the limits of what we could afford and what we needed to achieve, and convert that into some kind of reality against the change plan. So we went through that process. We got good feedback from the process. It was successful, and then we employed internal audit to review how we did that and how it was managed and the results of it all, and it came out very, very positively. So I was really happy with that piece of work.
Thank you. The next question from Councillor Mercer.
Thank you very much. Morning, Vaughan. You said how much relationships are important. As Chief Finance Officer, how would you seek to lead and inspire staff members to work towards the strategic priorities of the Office of Police, Fire and Crime Commissioner, and to work in a way that reflects its organisational vision and values?
I think as a starting point is making sure, I'm very keen to make sure that key individuals are all not only appraised of what's going on, but also feel part of the process. So my management style is very much to empower people to make decisions and to feel that they've got the scope to develop within their own roles. And I think that kind of ethos is really good for making a team work together. So all of the work that's going on at the minute around the police, fire and crime plan has been involving not only all of department heads, but it's also involving people in people's teams at the very core of the organisation, both within the office and also engaging with force colleagues and fire colleagues as well. And that's something I definitely want to continue doing. As part of the way that I manage people, I like to, so as well as empowering them, I think being supportive is very important, and having an eye to absolute inclusivity, understanding the people that are around you is extremely important. Everybody is different, and that is a challenge, but that is very important, and it is a really good thing. So embracing the diversity of the team and making sure that their voices are heard will only enrich what comes out of the other end.
So would you organise also continuous professional development with that for the staff members to to bring on their career and give them extra learning?
Yeah, we're putting in place a performance development review process that in some way mirrors what is done in the more formalised processes that the force has and that the fire service has. I always have regular one-to-ones with my staff, and that's not just to kind of hold them to account for their work, but that's also, and more importantly, to make sure that they're all right and that they're enjoying what they're doing, and that they have the opportunity to feed back to me about what I'm doing, because I think 360-degree feedback is really important for that. But yeah, absolutely, regular CPD and PDL processes are really important for us.
Hopefully not too much CPR. So, Dr. Cuss.
Thank you. Good morning, Paul. Welcome. So could you give an example of when you've needed to make a case to a partner organisation, whether at a local or national level, to gain their support to significant policy or action, and sort of kind of what approach did you do to make that successful? So this is that external focus. You've done the internal bit. I want to see how you're going to reach out externally.
So in previous roles, I've played part of in a lot of collaborations with other regional and national police forces, and some of that does involve some negotiation about how things are going to be delivered. So when Northamptonshire was part of the multi-force shared service in Cheshire, part of that involved building those relationships with peers in other organisations that didn't necessarily align to what we wanted to do, and find compromises. Simple things like how our processes are run, how transactional processes are run, but also bigger scale projects relating to IT and how systems are going to be built. And so my role in that was very much board level, and also looking into the detail about how do we compromise, how do we negotiate what's going to be best for all of us, and make sure that we get the absolute best out of what we're doing. And that is challenging. That's not an easy thing to do, especially when you have people at a senior level who've got big personalities and are used to getting their own way. There's a way of speaking to people and getting their buy-in, and that's really important.
Not really talking about the chief.
Can I just follow through?
Yeah, please do.
Okay. So I think you've got a lot of experience. I can see on your CV you've got loads of experience. So what I'm trying to look at is if you're having to reach out further than the police force family, and further than the fire family. So you've got to reach out now. You want to do a massive policy change. You're doing a massive plan that's going to have an impact on all of the communities in Northampton, which is great to see. You've got a role in that making sure that the plans are costed and that they underpin everything you're going to do. So how would you go about reaching out? Or have you had the opportunity yet to reach out to that wider community so that you can get out there and say these plans are costed, but there is a scenario B in case the policy changes quick? Have you done that yet? Have you tried? Is that an experience?
No, I've been part of it with mainly Johnny's been leading on that. So I suppose I have been part of it and I've kind of witnessed it, and I have spoken to external people, but generally speaking, I've been doing with a little bit within the police and fire bubble, I have to say. But it's I'm very interested to go beyond that, because I find that an interesting piece of work, and that's one of the good challenges that I'm looking forward to.
I think it's probably something you may want to think about as you go forward, because you've got a lot of skills, and I think it would be really helpful out there in the community. Thank you.
Loving the ambition. Councillor Randall for the next question, please.
Morning, Vaughan. As Chief Finance Officer, how will you seek to ensure that the work of the Office of the Police, Fire and Crime Commissioner has good intelligence on new issues, priorities and risks, so that its thinking is informed by the latest developments at local, national and even international level?
Thank you. So I'm already kind of well linked in, having worked in the sector for a long time. I'm already well linked in with various areas that do inform this, and I think that it's really important that we don't do everything in a silo and only look within the walls of kind of Northamptonshire Police or Fire. So I've got links into the Home Office. I've got people there who I regularly speak to. I'm part of the regional and national groups with other chief finance officers around the country and locally, and also on the fire service side. So I regularly meet with the other police, fire and crime commissioner CFOs, of which there aren't many, but it's really useful to get their insight and to build the picture of what's happening from their point of view. I'm on the national groups with the other CFOs, and also linked into the Association of the Chief Executives at all as well. Only a couple of weeks ago, I attended a conference workshop kind of weekend, which really was really helpful. That it really brought all of that intelligence from Home Office, other government departments, HMI, CFRS, and other police forces, and also some fire services. It brought everybody together so we'd got a shared understanding of what was happening nationally, both not just in terms of finance, but in terms of policy, in terms of statutory changes, and in terms of innovation and ways forward as well. So being linked into these groups is really important, not just within the police sector, but beyond that, linking in with previous conversations.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question from Councillor McGee.
Thank you. Good morning. I think we've already heard a bit of this, so it would be great to have an example to go along with this question, if that's all right. So, what approach do you take if required to advise or challenge to a senior leader that they may not wish to hear? Not that I'm looking at you there, Danielle.
Thankfully, Danielle and I haven't had many of those conversations yet, but I'm sure they'll come. Yeah, that was one of the key things with a Section 151 officer, is to have that level of challenge and be that person who says no. And one of the first things I said to Danielle when she arrived was, we'll get on, but there will be times when I have to say no to you. In previous roles, certainly with the force, there have been times I've always made sure that I was involved in all the executive meetings where business cases come forward. And there was several examples where a business case has come forward and the people in the room are very keen on this thing because it's a nice, shiny, good thing. And so I'll appraise the business case, and I'll come up with various reasons why it might not be such a good thing, both in terms of how much is this thing going to cost, and also is it legally compliant, and have we got a proper route to market to make sure that we're not falling foul of any procurement regulations or not spending public money wisely. So my approach to those things is always to make sure people understand the facts, people understand what the regulations are, why we do things the way we do them, and to bring it back to that value for money, what we're doing for the public thing. And I think that approach, rather than bullying a china shop say no, close your fold your arms, I don't want to do this. You need to back it up with facts, and you need to have a good reason to say no. If something's legally okay and it fits in with the plan and it's strategically good, you need to have a real good reason why it shouldn't be done. So I think as long as you've got your facts straight and you approach things in a reasonable, pragmatic way and people understand what you're saying to them, you can say no without it landing badly.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Maxwell has the next question.
What do you think represents effective working relationships between the Chief Finance Office and the Police, Fire and Crime Panel? How would you improve the role and maintain relationships with the police, fire and ourselves as a crime panel?
I see the panel as a really good critical friend when it comes to the work that I do, particularly. Because obviously you're holding Danielle to account, but when I come here talking about all the finances, I find it really helpful that you come up with questions that aren't things that I've necessarily thought about, and that independent view is really good. I mean, at the last one there was a Jill came up with a query about something on the report that wasn't quite clear enough, so I'll take that on board, and the next time we do the report I'll make sure it's clearer, because these reports go into the public domain and I need to make sure that what I'm writing can be understood by any member of the public who picks that up. So that feedback from yourselves is really important, and I'm absolutely invested in making sure that I listen to what you say and take action to do something with it. And I think that's the kind of relationship that we can build up. I've already got us to plan in the precept workshop before the panel at the end of workshop at the end of January. I'd really welcome as many of you as possible to come to that if you can join on that session, because that will really give you the opportunity to ask those detailed questions that you wouldn't necessarily have time for in the panel itself. And I can put your mind to rest on whatever, or indeed be ready to answer those questions more fully when we come to the panel itself. So,
do you think with the police and fire, because they're separate in the way they actually operate, do you think that it's important to make sure that you work with them, you know, forward thinking, the violence?
yeah, absolutely. The difference between police and fire is a very interesting one. And a lot of the stuff that I've been doing with the force and with fire is to get consistency and standardisation, and to make sure that we get efficiencies from the two organisations working together, but also recognising that there will be things that are always going to be different. You're never going to bring together because it wouldn't be the right thing to do so. And so that, as well as the relationship with the panel, it's really important that I maintain those relationships with fire and police colleagues to recognise what their needs are, and that I can put that into the work that I do to provide the finance.
And do you think actually, looking at the police and fire...
Could you pop your microphone on?
Looking at the police and fire, do you think that they have different demands, and the demands are different according to what might be happening at a particular time?
Absolutely different demands. So even though the police, fire and crime plan, as you'll see, is one that encompasses both police and fire, the way that we test against that will be very different for police and fire, because they're different organisations. Police is very much demand-led, and fire is very much risk-based, kind of more preventative. So the very different priorities, very different ways of working as well, are very different cultures, and those are the kind of challenges that it's really interesting to tease out.
Thank you.
That was a long one question. Councillor Carr.
Good morning, Vaughan. If appointed, what would you most like to achieve in your first year in the role?
To stay in it for a year at least. I think so. I've been doing the role already since just before Christmas. So I already feel like I've achieved a lot. But I think a whole year cycle in the role is really important, because a lot of financial stuff is annual and it happens in a circular way. I think I would be very happy if I could deliver a budget for both police, fire and for the Commissioner's Office that services the plan and that lays out a medium-term strategy that's affordable and isn't as scary as it otherwise could be. And I think my role is pivotal in making sure that everybody feeds into that. So if I can deliver a balanced budget and an affordable capital plan that ticks all the boxes for police and fire colleagues, and also improves those relationships between police and fire colleagues, so everybody's talking together and everybody is on the same page, I think I will have done a good job. But some of those things are easier said than done.
Thank you.
Lovely, thank you. Well, that concludes the questions. So Vaughan, is there anything you'd like to come back to or clarify any points on any of the questions that you were asked this morning?
No, as always, thank you for the questions. I'm always used to getting questions I don't expect in these meetings, so thank you.
Lovely, thank you. Thank you for coming along. Urgent business, there is no urgent business. So over to James.
Okay, so as is standard practice, the panel is invited to go into private session to consider its conclusion, report and recommendation on the proposed appointment. So the panel is asked formally to agree that under Section 100A of the Local Government Act 1972, the public be excluded from the meeting for the following item of business on the grounds that if the public were present, it would be likely that exempt information under Part 1, Paragraph 1 of Schedule 12A to the Act would be disclosed to them. So if I could ask the panel if it's happy to formally agree.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Thank you.